Williamsville Sports Weekly is brought to you by your local country financial representative, Ed Legner. Please contact Ed for all your insurance and financial planning needs. His office is located at 318 Crossing Drive in Sherman, and he can be reached at 217-496-2341. But for now, enjoy the show. Welcome to Williamsville Sports Weekly, an in-depth look at both BB and Bullet athletics, hosted by our athletic director Adam Euchre and former Lady Bullets basketball coach John Hampton.
Welcome to episode 92 of Williamsville Sports Weekly, brought to you by Ed Legner, country insurance financial representative out of Sherman, Illinois. You can visit Ed for all your insurance and financial needs. Well, I guess you'd say welcome to Illinois and the interesting weather we had. You know, we got spoiled in February with 70-degree temperatures, and then opening week for spring sports, we had to move the season opener for baseball. It was supposed to be played yesterday as I'm recording this here on Thursday night over at SHG. Moved that game to Monday. The baseball team opens up tomorrow. When this gets posted, it'll be today against Springfield Lutheran. And then, you know, softball got their home opener in today, coming back and beating Stanford Olympia down 5-2, ended up fighting back. And then the bottom of the seventh, winning pitcher Olivia Feltz gets a RBI single to drive in Skylar Dees to win 6-5. And as I told Coach Ashbaugh after the game, you know, that was a great way for them to face adversity and really just kick it in the teeth to start the season. And I really think that shows the fight that these girls have and what they're going to be able to do coming up throughout the 2017 campaign. They'll be in action again on Saturday over at Pawnee for a varsity and JV doubleheader. But going back to the weather, you know, thought the snow was done. Didn't think I'd have to be shoveling it all this week, but that was the case. And that was one of the reasons we ended up moving our girls' soccer game over to Quincy, because we didn't know if we'd be able to get the field ready. And that just happens sometimes. And I guess that's the beauty of living in Illinois. You don't know what season you're going to get on a day-to-day basis. And that is the one nice thing about living in this state is the weather. And you do get to experience all four seasons. I know some people may not appreciate that, but it is something I know I've really enjoyed growing up here. And, you know, my memories of, you know, the fall with the leaves falling, you know, you have hot summers, cool, wet springs, mild winters like we had this year, or, you know, you can even have monster snows. So hopefully we're done with the snow now. Hopefully we're not in for a nasty spring. As you know, at the beginning of March, end of February, we had some of those severe weather that, you know, brought tornadoes to the north central part of the state up in Ottawa and Naplate. And, you know, we had some down here as well about a week later with some severe storms rolling through. So hopefully Mother Nature's done messing around with us. That's the one thing I don't enjoy about spring sports, the amount of cancellations that we have to have. And if you go to our website, wcsd15.org, you can see all the games that have been rescheduled up to this point. As I talked about, that varsity baseball game against Sacred Heart that's supposed to take place yesterday, Wednesday, the 15th of March, now being played Monday, March 20th. I was supposed to have a JV softball game on Tuesday, March 14th up in East Peoria. They really a 3A power. Obviously, we're going to play when it was 28 degrees and there was snow on the ground. And then same thing with JV baseball that day. We had to move the Rochester game, to this coming Saturday. And, you know, the fortunate thing, we're going to getting two underclass games out of that. Starting at 11 o'clock over at Rochester High School, because unfortunately Pawnee had to drop their JV season because of the number of players in their program this year. And I know that's something that John and I will probably talk about in the coming weeks is what is this new pitching requirement going to do to many baseball programs? As I've talked to some other ADs and coaches, they're kind of worried about that. And it'll be interesting to see, you know, one of the big things that we like to do here at Williamsville is we really like to build up our underclass programs, because that's really the lifeblood of your varsity program, of your varsity team once they get up there, is getting that experience at those younger levels. And, you know, having games, having the ability to fail in in situations before you get to the varsity level and know how to overcome those adverse situations and be able to get better and get experience. And, that's one thing we did with softball this year is to add about 18 separate games. Unfortunately, some of those have been canceled because, once again, other schools, which we really have no control over, had to drop their JV seasons due to lack of participation. Lincoln was one, St. Teresa was another one. We were going to not play against Morton when we go up there on May 6th, but ultimately Canton stepped in. We'll be able to play Canton and U-High in some JV contests. So that's one thing we really try to do to give our kids the experience. And, just because you're an underclass player doesn't mean you shouldn't be getting game time experience. That's what they prepare for. And like we said, we've seen it pay huge dividends. Taking boys basketball, for example, the tough schedule they play as freshmen, and what it ends up translating to once they're juniors and seniors on that varsity team. Same thing with volleyball, soccer, you can name them down the board, football as well. So hopefully that doesn't happen in the spring sports with baseball and softball. There's not a pitching limitation in softball as there is on baseball, but it'll be interesting to see how things kind of pan out here coming up over the next few years. On does it affect underclass programs, and would the IHSA make a change with that? I really don't know. I know just in talking with some local ADs, there is some concern with it. So hopefully that doesn't come to fruition, and hopefully other kids are given a chance and pitchers are developed, because ultimately the change was in the right spot with trying to protect kids and protect their arms, but also. There could be some consequences that maybe, are unintentional that come with it. So hopefully that doesn't take place, but we'll just have to wait and see. The thing that, we're focusing on this week for the first time in school history, our Scholastic Bowl team captured the sectional title under third-year coach Coach Trimpe. And that is our main focus this week, as we have Coach Trimpe on in the next segment. And then Mitch, McCullar, and Eli Reevis on in the players segment as they head up to Peoria when this gets posted on Friday. And for the state tournament, 8 teams left in Class 1A. And if they come out of that pool play, they have an opportunity to bring home some hardware, which would be awesome. And, looking at their picture here, as I'm on our Twitter page at WCSD 15 Sports, where you can follow us for all your news and score updates throughout the 16-17 school year on both BB and Bullet athletics. These kids, they're not just Scholastic Bowl kids. They're student athletes. They're involved in a large number of extracurricular activities. And that's the thing that's so special about Williamsville. And, I'm going to brag on them because that's where I'm at. And I bleed purple and gold just like everyone in this community does. But the amount of things that our kids excel in is absolutely remarkable. And the amount of things that they're involved in. We have kids here, like I said, we have 2 softball players on here that are in softball right now. As we hear Eli talk, a state qualifier in golf. We have some of our cross-country and track kids. We have some swimmers. We have some fine arts kids, and for them to come together, and it's really interesting in the interview with Coach Trimpe how he really took a different coaching philosophy this year and really studied some things and figured out, what can they do to become a better team. And it's really interesting to hear, the big thing that he focuses on. I don't want to give too much of the interview away, on just teamwork and team bonding and being a good person and having trust, and that's really helped them excel this season, is obviously qualifying for the state finals in Class 1A, and then even qualifying for the national tournament that will take place at the end of April up in Chicago that they're going to be fortunate enough to go to. So just a great group of kids that are going to be representing WHS and the entire school district tomorrow up at the Peoria Civic Center, starting at 10 o'clock. And like I said, they have a great chance to move on into that final round where they would be able to bring home some hardware, and who knows, maybe the first state trophy since 1995 will be coming back to Williamsville High School tomorrow afternoon. So you can follow on the Score Zone, IHSA.org. That will be up there, or we'll have updates on Twitter at WCSD 15 Sports. as well to follow how the team is doing up at the state finals. If you want to go up, we talked about this in the interview. It is free of charge. I do suggest getting up there early since the Class 3A and 4A state finals for boys basketball are going on as well, but free of charge to go up and watch them, and it's very interesting to watch and very exciting. And like I said, I think they're going to represent the school and the community very well up in the state finals, and we wish them the best of luck. As always, like I said, you can follow us on Twitter at WCSD15 Sports for all your news and score updates on both BB and Bullet Athletics throughout the 15-16 school year. Obviously, Facebook as well, facebook.org/WHS Bullets for not only information on athletics, but the high school as well. Like us on there so you can see what is going on. Obviously, this podcast, Williamsville Sports Weekly, subscribe to us on iTunes for this to come right to your podcast feed every single week. If you're not on iTunes, you can go to WCSD15.org, click on athletics, and on the left-hand side of our page, you'll see this episode as well as all the past episodes. It's hard to believe that we're almost at 100 episodes with this venture that we started over 4 years ago. But you can go back and listen to all of them, and there's some great ones in there, so I highly recommend that you do that. We also post this up on our YouTube channel. Just search for Williamsville Bullets, and you'll find our YouTube channel. There's a lot of things up there that we've put up. So this podcast is one of them. Obviously, we'd also like to thank our sponsor, Ed Legner, Country Insurance Financial Representative out of Sherman, Illinois. You can visit Ed for all your insurance and financial needs. As I said, when we return, we'll be joined by head coach for the sectional champion and state qualifier Scholastic Bowl team, Coach Trimpe.
Next time you're in the market for insurance or financial planning, stop by and see Country Financial Representative Ed Legner at 318 Crossing Drive in Sherman, or give him a call at 217-496-2341. And now, back to the show.
You know the day destroys the night, night divides the day. Try to run, try to hide, break on through to the other side, break on through to the other side.
Welcome back to Williamsville Sports Weekly, presented by Ed Legner, Country Insurance Financial Representative out of Sherman, Illinois. You can visit Ed for all your insurance and financial needs. Sitting with us right now, first time in school history, head coach for the sectional champs, Scholastic Bowl team, Coach Trimpe. Congratulations on that, Coach. Obviously, that's a huge accomplishment, and with winning a sectional title, unlike like basketball or volleyball or baseball, you qualify for state. Those ones you have to win a super sectional, so you guys are advancing to state this coming Friday, which we'll talk about in a second. But in your third year, you've kind of overcame. You before we went on there, you talked about it as a curse, and some that Coach Hampton always talk about is continuing to knock on the door. Where football was in the quarterfinals for 5 straight years before they finally broke through. Baseball was in the sectional finals many years before they broke through. Same thing with volleyball. So you finally broke through. What do you think was the reason why this was the year? Because the past few years you basically lost by one question in the sectional finals. And that's been ended your season, which I'm sure was heartbreaking. So what's the difference been?
Well, it really has been heartbreaking. The past 3 years of the Scholastic Bowl team, we go to the sectional rounds, and the last match of all of those, we lose by 10 points. One question, and it is heartbreaking, especially for the kids because they work so hard each season. This year, I think we have not only the right combination of kids with what they know in terms of their content, but we've also been really working well on teamwork throughout this whole season, which really does come into play for Scholastic Bowl. I know a lot of people have an idea that being on Scholastic Bowl is all about just individual scoring, and really the other part to Scholastic Bowl is working as a team, because half of the questions that we hear, or most of them, are teamwork questions, and so they have to work together to decide on a final answer in order to get those points.
Now you talk about teamwork. We do captain's council here in terms of, working with different members of the athletic department teams in order to help them understand, the concept of teamwork and, life lessons and stuff. What have you been doing specifically? Because obviously, you said people don't think there's teamwork involved in Scholastic Bowl. So what are some of these things you've been doing to work on that? Because like you said, that has played a big component in your success this year.
Right. So one of the things that I thought about at the very beginning of this season, I really wanted to improve how the students on our team worked together. And the reason for that is I've seen teams in the past still do sort of well in terms of winning matches. But when it comes down to the wire, if they don't work well together as a team, they're not going to take home regional championships, sectional championships. They're just not going to get those big matches. And so first practice this season, I sat the whole team down. They probably could tell you this whole speech that I gave them. And I said that this being my third year as a coach, I really think it's important for us to work on teamwork, and then we'll get to the content for the Scholastic Bowl later on this season. If we can work together as a team first, then everything else can kind of follow suit. And so I used my experience both through high school and college, working with different leadership organizations, and I just had the kids do group activities, leadership activities during practice instead of jumping straight to working on buzzing in on questions, so that when it came to these matches, we could work together as a single team. I always tell them we play as a team, we win as a team, we lose as a team, but we need to do it as a team to be successful. And so I really think they appreciated those activities that we started out with. I think it helped the kids who usually don't hang out with each other outside of Scholastic Bowl to really get to know each other better. And I think it really helped us this season. Hopefully, we won the sectional championship, so I think that was a part of it.
Now you talk about some of these activities. What are some of the ones that stick out in your mind that have worked the best or had the biggest impact? Because I know with Captain's Council that Coach Halford and I do, there's some things that are much more effective that the kids kind of resonate to, and even with leadership stuff that I do in the military, some things work better than others. So what have you found that you're going to use again next year, and has really just hit home with these kids?
Honestly, it doesn't have to be anything complicated, and this is what I found for Scholastic Bowl. If you just get the team together and you play a game together. So one of the games that we did, we went down to the cafeteria one day, and I each gave them a character, but they didn't know what character they were. I taped it onto their back, and they had to work. It's kind of like 20 questions. They had to work together to decipher what character they were in order to either win the game or finish the game. So basically they had to interact with each other, and they had to get each other clues on who they were. One of the other things I did is I went around the school, and I found maybe 30 or 40 different things unique about our school, and I gave them a scavenger hunt. And so they went around the school finding different things in the hallway, in the library, and I put them in small groups so that they could take the time to work together besides sitting at a desk answering questions. I don't know if a lot of other teams in the area do these types of activities, but I think it's really helped our team to work well together, to get along, and to be successful.
Now you talk about that scavenger hunt. What were some of the unique things that you had on there that maybe the kids didn't know about that obviously made them take more pride in this place, which is a very special place here?
Right. So some of the things I had them find were different types of trophies in the trophy cases. Other things were kind of silly, like find a prime number above 300. So some of them figured out locker numbers would be a good way to find that. I had them find basically just things that weren't as obvious, that maybe they don't pay attention to when they walk the halls every day. And then they had to take, for example, they had to take a selfie with a teacher, and it couldn't be me or the assistant coach. So I remember a group of kids found Mr. Coons. He was just walking the hallway, probably leaving or going to football practice, and took a selfie with him real fast, and he was kind of caught off guard, but I told him about it later. And so it was just something fun for them to do together.
Well, and you talk about how they figured out with the lockers with the prime number above 300. I think that probably showed them too is that you have to rely on other people because you're not always going to know the answer.
Right.
Because you guys get extremely tough questions. I know when I was getting ready for regionals that we hosted, and I was looking through that packet. I mean, I couldn't answer any of them, and I'm sure that allows them to have trust and confidence in those teammates then when really, the rubber meets the road when it comes to a big match?
Yeah, this is my first year that I've really dedicated having different students work on different topics. For example, I have one student who just does science. And he does a little bit more than just science, but his focus is purely science. And when we get a science toss-up or bonus question, you just see the kids kind of gravitate their head or turn their head towards him because we're relying on him for that question for the most part. I know one of my students is really good with literature, whether it's American, British, or world literature. And so when it's a literature question, the kids turn to him because we're relying on him because he's been focusing on that all season. And I think that's also been what's helped us be successful. We're dividing and conquering in terms of the content that we hear in all these matches.
Now, with that, the toss-up question, and only an individual can answer that. So, like, when they answer that, is it just the first person that buzzes in, or does it kind of go in order, like, okay, this person has this toss-up, this person has this toss-up, this person has this toss-up? Because you're saying, you're trying to divide and conquer and have a more well-rounded team in terms of your expertise. So how does that work on those toss-up questions?
Well, for a general toss-up question, you cannot talk to your team. No one can really talk during the toss-up question, and only one person per team can buzz in. And so you kind of have to play the game where you're going to listen closely to the question, of course, but if it's a topic that you're not so sure about, then you're probably not going to buzz in. The issue is when I have a question that multiple people know, now it becomes a race. And we're not trying to race against ourselves. We're trying to race against the other team to make sure they don't get the toss-up before us. But when we do regionals and sectionals, and now that we're advancing to state, IHSA has a breakdown of the percentages for the types of questions that we hear. So we might hear of all the questions 20% math, 20% literature, 20% social studies. And so that's what we've been focusing on this season. We've got someone working on science. We've got someone working on literature. And, of course, some of the students are going to study more than one topic. But based off those percentages that they give us, we can pretty much anticipate what's going to come up towards the end of the match.
Now, you talk about how you kind of changed your coaching philosophy with that, with having the kids focus on different topics and kind of really get good at that. Where did you get that from? Did that just kind of dawn on you? Did you get that talking to another coach? Did you go to a conference? Kind of where did that shift in philosophy change?
I think it kind of came from all of those sources because I know other schools do this. Other coaches use that strategy. When I was on Scholastic Bowl in high school, I was math and science. That's basically all that I did, and that's all that I studied. And one of the other reasons why we kind of grew into this philosophy, my first year as a coach, my two top guys that I had on the team, they pretty much already did that themselves. They pretty much told themselves, I'm going to study these topics, and then you study these topics. And even the other people on the team, they kind of knew what they liked to study, and they stuck with that. So now that I've been doing this a few years and I have the experience, hopefully I've fine-tuned this enough that it helps us out for this Friday.
Do you think that plus if you hadn't done that and added the teamwork, do you think you guys would be in the spot you're in right now?
I have to give credit to the students because they put so much work into this team. They have worked so hard this year. We've played over 70 matches this season, our record being 61-11, which is awesome. I don't know, without doing the teamwork, I think we would have struggled on a couple of the matches for sure, because some of these matches have come down to the wire. There's been matches that we've won in sudden death. And so I think all of it factors into our success. It's hard to say how it would separate it if we took it out. But for the most part, I think it's been very beneficial for the students to do all of these things this season.
Now, one of your students just got a prestigious award in terms of being named to the All-State team. Talk to us about that.
Yeah, so in terms of the process for All-State team, each season coaches are allowed to nominate players to the all-sectional team. And so I nominated 2 players to the all-sectional team, and both players made it. It was Mitch McCullar and Eli Reevis. And so when you make the all-sectional team, you're automatically put into the voting process for all-state team. And so only 10 kids per class, and there's only 2 classes in Scholastic Bowl. Only 10 students will make the all-state team, and Mitch McCullar was one of those 10 students across the whole state. that was awarded that. Actually, just happened this past week. So it was a big honor. A lot of the coaches in the state know Mitch by name because he's that good. And I think that really I think he's really proud of that. I'm really proud of him. And I think that really helps the success of our team.
Now, one of the things you said that he did this summer in preparation is he went to something called Quiz Bowl Camp.
Yeah, Quiz Bowl Camp. It actually takes place in Lincoln, Illinois. They host it about 7 different sites across the United States. And there's one really close by at Lincoln College. And they take a week, and they go through practice rounds. They go through classes, and they take tests. And I know that does not sound fun probably for a lot of people who are listening to this, but it's all based on competition at this camp. And so Mitch took a couple specific classes on topics that he wanted to learn more about, and he got to meet with Scholastic Bowl students all across the country, work with them on a team, play against them. He even got to room with maybe 1 or 2 of them. And I think it was just a really good experience for him, not only as a player, but just as a person in general, getting to take that experience working with students across the country and getting better as a player.
Now, obviously, this Friday, heading up to the Peoria Civic Center, it's interesting that they have your state series going on as well as the 3A, 4A boys basketball, so it'll be very busy up there. But first time there, I'm sure there's going to be some nerves. But in your pool that you have to play in, you have faced 2 out of the other 3 teams that are in that pool. Talk to us about that and kind of what your outlook is going in.
Sure. So there will be 8 teams in our class that are vying for the championship on Friday. And so they split the 8 teams into 2 pools of 4. We play every team in our pool. Based off that record, we either get to play for first, second, third, or fourth, or go home. But that's not going to be the case. So our pool, our first match is against Robinson, which we saw them once this year at a tournament, which we ended up winning the whole tournament. So we beat Robinson that match. The score was 445 to 180. So it was a really good match, and I think, if I remember correctly, we took it away towards the end of that match. The second team we're playing the pool is Maroa. We've actually faced Maroa 3 times this year. They're in our conference, and we have beat them all 3 times, but one of the matches did come down to just a 10-point difference. And the third team we're playing, we haven't played yet, Johnston City. They're down south. We don't know a whole lot about them, so it'll be kind of interesting to play them for the first time at state. Hopefully, based off that record that we've got going on with 2 of these 3 teams, we could take that experience and help us do really well on Friday.
So in terms of the structure of how like the bracket's set up, so you'll have 3 matches in pool play.
Yep.
And then from there, do 2 teams come out, or is it just 1, and then you go into a semifinal, and then the losers of the semifinal are in the 3rd and the 4th, and then the winners are in the 1st and 2nd?
2 teams come out of the pool. So
Okay.
if you're the winner of the pool, you play for 1st or 2nd. If you're the runner-up in the pool, you play for 3rd or 4th. They kind of skip that semifinal match, and I think they do that just to save some time. But with that setup, I mean, only 8 teams are playing, and there are 4 spots. So, I mean, there's just a good shot right off the bat for making one of those afternoon rounds.
And you would get, I mean, if you're playing for, I mean, if you get in that final round, you're bringing home
some hardware.
You're bringing home some hardware.
Oh, yeah, for sure. And that's the goal. I told the students, just like any tournament that we do, we have to take it step by step, match by match. We don't want to get too overconfident as we play these teams that we've played before, because the questions could be a little different. I mean, every match is different. So I told them, let's do it 1 match at a time. After each match, we can kind of regroup, decide on how we're feeling for the next match, and hopefully on Friday we can make it to that 4th match and even make some more school history for the Scholastic Bowl team.
Well, obviously we'll be keeping everyone up to date on Twitter at WCSD15 Sports, also on the Score Zone, IHSA.org. We'll have it as well. But this isn't the end of your season. Nationals coming up in April up in Chicago. Obviously, you don't want to focus on that right now. You know, state's the most important thing.
Right.
But before we let you go, anything else you'd like to add or tell the listeners, Coach?
I know it's kind of late in the season because we're already to the state championship, but if anyone in here sees any of our Scholastic Bowl players here at the high school, just give them a congratulations. They've been working really hard. We started all the way back in October, and our season is not going to end until the beginning of May. It's a very long season, and they're very dedicated. So I'm just very proud of all the hard work they've been doing. I mean, we've won a lot of tournaments this season, and their hard work has just been paying off. So good job, team.
We wish you the best of luck on Friday. And when we return, we'll be joined by senior Eli Reevis, who is the captain of the Scholastic Bowl team, and all-state team member, who's a junior, Mitch McCullar.
Yeah.
So we'll be back in a few.
If you can't make it out to the game, you don't have to worry about missing a moment of the action by following all BB and Bullet athletic happenings on Twitter at WCUSD15Sports. And now back to the show.
Welcome back to Williamsville Sports Weekly, presented by Ed Legner, Country Insurance Financial Representative out of Sherman, Illinois. You can visit Ed for all your insurance and financial needs. Sitting with us right now, senior captain for the sectional champion Scholastic Bowl team, senior Eli Reevis, and recently named All-State for Scholastic Bowl for Class 1A, junior Mitch McCullar. I kept wanting to say McCullar for some reason, so I want to apologize. For some reason, I feel like I'm going to say that again throughout the interview. So, Mitch, just make sure that you correct me anytime that I say your last name wrong. But the first thing that I want to ask you, Mitch, is that's not your real name. Not saying that's not your real name, like you just go by some pseudonym out there, or but your birth name is Scott.
Yes.
So what has made you want to be called Mitch?
My dad's side, all the firstborn males. So my dad and my grandfather, their first name, my dad's being Ryan Scott McCullar. That's his full name. He goes by Scott as well. So that's how my dad's side usually goes.
Now, is that like a Scottish, Irish thing?
Scottish, yes.
Okay, so that has to do with going a long way back.
Yes.
So Scott's in there, but you just decide, hey, I don't want to be called that.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Now, like I said, just being named to All-State. And there's only 2 classes with Scholastic Bowl, very similar to what it used to be with, all the other sports, volleyball, boys basketball, obviously golf, with which you do, Eli. There's still 2 classes, but for majority there are 3. But for a majority of them, we're up to the 4-class system. Football, obviously, there's 8, so there's only 10 in each class. That's a huge honor, especially as a junior.
Thank you.
I mean, how do you feel about that in terms of, having that prestige and making that as a junior?
As a junior, it's kind of cool. I've spent a lot of time studying, so it just shows it's paid off. And there's a lot of seniors on there this year as well who were juniors last year on the team. So
now you talk about studying.
Yes.
You did some preparation this summer. So and Coach Trimpe talked about it in the last segment. You went to Quiz Bowl camp. Now,
yes, I did.
Now, when I think of that, I think like you're there and it's like Jeopardy all day. Is that what it is, or am I kind of shooting in the dark there?
There are at least 150 students there from grades middle school, so 6 through seniors, and high school 12. They divide you up based on your skills, and there's a bunch of practice tournaments. There's actually classes that you take to learn about certain subjects, history or literature, stuff like that. So that's kind of how it goes, and there's pretty good meals.
So now you say there's classes.
Yes.
So like how to answer questions, like how to kind of like read the other team. Like what do you mean by classes that are there?
The classes, they actually teach you a certain subject. The classes I took were world literature and world history. They you have a notebook, and they basically rattle off a bunch of very important stuff about each thing in history or literature, and you write it down, and then you have you can study it later, like after the camp is over. That's the whole point, is getting better for the next season.
And then are you competing? Like, is it like when you go to like a basketball camp, you're obviously scrimmaging. I mean, do you have like mock matches and things like that?
There are many mock matches. They make many different teams for you, and there's a lot of individual stuff as well.
Now, was there like I said, I think like you're playing Jeopardy all day. Was there an Alex Trebek type figure or character that was there that was kind of in charge or moderating these matches that you were doing?
There were many different matches because there were 150 students, so there were at least 8 to 10 college help there who were previous Quiz Bowl players, and they were moderating most of the matches, but there was also one guy in charge of the whole thing.
Was he like Alex at all or no?
I don't think so.
Okay. Now, you said the meals were good.
They were.
This was up at Lincoln College. Just in the dorm food, or did they like cater stuff in? How did that go?
I believe they actually brought in the cooks from Lincoln College, and they just made us meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Now, with it being local, roughly only 20 minutes away, was it mostly local kids, or were there kids from all over the country here?
It was mostly all over the state because they, the Ace Quiz Bowl camp, I guess, they have like 6 to 10 different sites each year, mostly around the Midwest. I think Illinois is the furthest west they go to, far east, like South Carolina. And so most of the people there were from Illinois.
Now, Eli, obviously on the other side of athletics and activities, you do golf and stuff. But did you do anything like Mitch did over summer to prep for this, or do you just kind of practice when it's season time, or kind of do some studying on your own? I know you guys do a lot of practice through a computer program that we have. Kind of what has been your way to prep for this season?
I'll just read my history book when I get into school, but summer's just for golf, so I just practice all the time with golf. I don't really think about Scholastic Bowl during the summer, so just golf all the time.
Now, we'll talk about golf in a second because obviously you're a 2-time state qualifier, and I want to ask you, how being there as an individual prepared you for this team event coming up this weekend. But the thing that I want to ask both of you real quickly before we get into that is the thing that Coach Trimpe talked about is one of the strategies that he has kind of employed this year is he's had you guys kind of specialize on your areas and everything. So, Eli, you said you really like to study history and stuff. So, is there like a certain time period, like world, U.S.? I really love World War II in terms of that time frame. Like, what is your area that it's going to come up and you're the go-to guy for that for those answers?
Like U.S. history, Civil War. Like, if there's a question about Civil War, I will get it.
Now, what about you, Mitch? What's kind of your area of specialties?
My main areas, like my strongest ones, are literature and world history. He does American history, I do world history. So we kind of split up the category there.
Now, and those are like during the toss-up questions, and kind of explain that process. I know, Mitch, you've done very well in terms of scoring quite a bit for toss-up, but so a history question comes up for you, Eli. Does the team kind of defer to you, or is it kind of like a mad dash and like if you buzz in first, then it's like Family Feud where like you can answer, or do you have to buzz in first to get that history question?
Yeah, like how we do it is like if what we always say, if you know it, buzz in. But like if it's like a history question, like a U.S. history question, they'll usually wait because I'll probably know it and like in the first few sentences, and then I'll buzz in. But like if I don't know it, they'll buzz in. If the other kids on the team will buzz in and answer.
And is that kind of the same thing for you too, Mitch?
Yeah, basically if it's categories like that, they kind of look towards me at the beginning, and if I'm not getting it right away, then they're like, all right, they probably have to jump into this, so they usually wait and listen. They get them as well.
Because if you don't get that toss-up, you're missing on a 3-part bonus, which obviously helps get your points up.
Oh, yeah.
Now, Eli, like we said, 2-time qualifier as an individual in golf. Obviously, you were there as an individual, a little bit different than the team stuff. So that's still a huge stage. What did going to those two events in your junior and senior year, has that done to prepare you? Because you're in a huge leadership role this year on the Scholastic Bowl team, which we'll talk about in a second. But going to golf in Bloomington the last 2 years, what has that done to prepare you?
Well, it's definitely like helped my confidence, and like going in like freshman, sophomore year, I wasn't very confident. But like once junior year, I started playing a lot better. I was a lot more confident where I could like trust myself and be able. And being there, I know what the stakes are. Like, you're playing against kids that are good enough to be at state, so you know you have to play your best game the whole time.
Does that give you confidence knowing that you're qualified and that you and the team as a whole are as good as everyone else that's there?
Yeah, definitely. Because like we realized like at the beginning of the year we're going to have a good team, but once we started playing good, win tournaments, we're like, this is going to be the year we can actually go to state and represent the school.
Now, like I said, you've played a huge role this year in terms of being a captain, and Coach Trimpe kind of talked about it a little bit in the last segment, but he had 2 captains throughout the regular season, and then going into postseason, he selected you to be that main captain. You play a huge role. Talk about what your role is during a match and how pivotal and important it is for you to stay focused so that the team can do well.
Well, I think the main thing definitely is like just making sure everybody's heard. Like sometimes it's happened like where I don't hear someone at the end of the table who knows the answer, and sometimes that's the problem. We like don't get the question right. But the main thing is just like letting everybody hear. And like if they miss a question like on a toss-up, I'll tell the team to just wait so we can listen for the full question, make sure we don't buzz in early and get it wrong too.
Now, obviously, on the toss-up, it's the first person that answers that gets it. So, but like when it goes to the bonus round or like sudden death, are you the team spokesman? Are you the one that's giving it, or could like Mitch give it, or is it as a set of rules, the captain is the one that has to give that answer?
Well, sometimes I'll get all the answers from everybody and then answer. But if someone knows it, like for sure they know it, I'll have them buzz in. And like if they have a guess, they'll tell me. I'll just say it. So it really is just like making sure you like. If somebody knows it, have them answer, and if it's kind of like up in the air, I'll have to just listen to everybody and make sure I get the best answer out there.
Now, one of the things that Coach Trimpe talked about, that the other thing that he did to kind of revamp his coaching style and get you guys prepared, is he's really worked on teamwork this year and done some team building activities, which he said has really had the team come together and allowed you guys to trust each other and understand that you're all in this together. Everyone kind of has their role on the team, just like basketball, football, and if you don't do your role, then the team's not going to be successful. So starting with you, Eli, what is that teamwork aspect for you personally? How has that made the team better this year than in past years?
I think just this year we've learned to actually listen to everybody, because last year, not dissing on last year, we were a good team, but like we didn't really listen to each other. We had three main kids, and that's all we thought. If we didn't know something, we were kind of done. But with this year, we're all able to work together so we can answer more questions, answer more bonuses.
Mitch, what about you? What has that stuff done for you to bring up your confidence?
Trust goes a lot like we've talked about with strengths in each categories. So you're able to trust that this person is going to get the science question, or that this person is going to get the history question. So you kind of just if you think you know it but you're not sure, just wait for the person who knows science better than you to buzz in on that science question.
Now, looking forward to Friday, as we're recording this here on Wednesday, 2 days out, 2 more days of practice, going into pool play. We've beat two of the 4 teams that are in there. Obviously, we're the 4th team, so we can't beat ourselves. But Robinson and Maroa, we've beat, and then there's Johnston City. Obviously, if we come out of there first or second place, and we're playing for some hardware, what do you guys think the team's going to have to do in order to advance and do well on Friday?
I think the main thing is just not getting full of ourselves. Sometimes I know at golf I would get full of myself and choke, but we just have to play our own game. We know we can beat the 2 teams that we've already played, and we feel like we've gotten the easier draw, but we just can't get cocky too, because it's state and they're good enough to make it here, so they obviously did something well.
Yeah, I'm agreeing with Eli there. If we kind of jump the gun too much, I guess, buzz early, I think I know it, and then possibly that team could just exploit that. We've done that to many teams where they're a better team than us. I mean, Glenwood, for example, they did that a lot. They were buzzing in early, and we took the lead actually, but then they started slowing down, and they beat us eventually. But it just kind of goes like that. So we just gotta keep our head in the game, stay as a team, and we can win.
Now, you say buzz in early. If you get that question wrong, is it like in game shows that you see where you lose points, or you just not gain points then?
We just don't gain points. We just we have to sit there and what we know, the last sentence will literally almost give the answer when they'll get it. So it really, sometimes it's bad to buzz in early, but sometimes it's good because then they can't get it.
The last thing that I want to ask you guys, obviously state is coming up, but that does not end your season. You guys are heading to nationals in April up in Chicago. Huge honor. You guys had to qualify for that, I think, by winning the Masonic tournament maybe is the one you had to qualify for.
I think so. It was conference and a couple other tournaments. Yeah.
But huge honor. How excited are you guys about that, about playing against teams from around the country? Obviously, going to state's a huge deal, and that's really the big thing that everyone strives for. But going to nationals, that's going to be kind of a fun way as a capstone for your guys' season, obviously, in your senior year, Eli.
Well, I think it's just more of we get to see what other teams are like in what other states. We see teams from all over Illinois all the time, so we get used to what they're like. But being able to see people from New York, South Carolina, it's just really cool to see what they do and how they know stuff.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. There's 120 teams. There's a lot of teams there, so it's gonna be fun. It's over a weekend, so it's a lot of quiz bowl stuff, and it just gives us a lot of time to play games and stuff and just have fun, I guess.
Now, do you guys think you'll continue this in college at all? Obviously, Eli, you're graduating. Mitch, you have another year to think about this. But is this something you think you'll continue on once you get to the collegiate level?
I've looked at colleges that have quiz bowl teams, but it's just they don't work with my major as well, or they're just hard schools to get into in general. And so I haven't really been, trying to look for quiz bowl teams. And ISU is the school I've been looking at mostly, and they don't have one. But everyone's like, oh, you can start one, but that seems like a lot of work. I don't want to do that.
Eli?
Yeah, I don't think I'll play in college. I'll probably just study, probably go out to the golf course every day and practice just for fun. Probably do other stuff, but I'm probably not going to join one. Plus, most of the schools I'm looking at don't even have it.
Well, gentlemen, once again, thank you so much for coming on today. I know you guys have huge preparation still heading into Friday. But before we let you go, is there anything else you'd like to add or tell the listeners? We'll start with you, Mitch.
Yeah, I'd like to thank my mom and my dad, my parents, a lot, and my family. They've come to many of my matches. I think my mom's going to basically all of them. So I'd like to thank them. And my teammates also, they've been great, a big support to also help us get to state. And I have to thank Mr. Trimpe and our assistant coach, the Spanish teacher, Senora. They've helped us. Mr. Trimpe has been guiding us the way there. He's been setting up everything. He is handling everything. It's really nice.
Eli, what about you?
I also want to thank my parents, definitely my teammates, because without them we wouldn't be here. It's not a 2-man team. It's a 15-man team or 14. But I also want to thank the coaches too, Mr. Trimpe and Senor, because they've really stepped up like this year and like helping the team more. We've done more stuff. Like we've become a better team with them. I also want to thank all the moderators that come to our matches at the high school. Doing that, they take time out of their day to come and do a Scholastic Bowl meeting, read questions for us, which really is very thankful. And I also want to thank all the fans that have come to our matches too, because it really kind of makes us feel good when we see people that actually come and recognize this Scholastic Bowl team and see how good we're doing.
Now, when you guys say fans, so is there rowdy fans ever that people like get kicked out for like yelling at the moderators or like yelling at the judges for a bad like that wasn't the right answer? I mean, does anything like that happen?
Not yet, but I really want to see that happen.
Okay, well, hey, never say never, right?
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, once again, we wish you the best of luck on Friday and the whole team as well. Up at the Peoria Civic Center, starting at 10 o'clock, I believe. If you are planning on going, I'd get there early just because the 3A and 4A boys basketball tournament is going on. And the nice thing is there's no admission to get into your guys' event, so it is a free event, and we are wishing you guys the best of luck. And like I said, I have a good feeling you guys are bringing home some hardware. So when we return, we'll take a look ahead at the upcoming week for both the BBs and the Bullets.
Next time you're in the market for insurance or financial planning, stop by and see Country Financial Representative Ed Legner at 318 Crossing Drive in Sherman, or give him a call at 217-496-2341. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to Williamsville Sports Weekly, presented by Ed Legner, Country Insurance Financial Representative out of Sherman, Illinois. You can visit Ed for all your insurance and financial needs. Just two great sets of interviews there, as always, with our, a member of our coaching staff and some of our student athletes, Coach Trimpe, and then students Mitch McCullar and Eli Reevis did not disappoint, and just their insight into the Scholastic Bowl season and Scholastic Bowl in general was just really cool. And as I said at the top of the show, the thing I loved about talking with Coach Trimpe is how he was looking at how to better round our students and make them better people, and how that ended up translating into results this season. I read a lot of John Gordon stuff, and he really talks about the process and to focus on the process. And when you focus on the process, results will end up coming about. And I think a lot of our coaches buy into that here, and you see the results do. The thing that I I absolutely admire about Coach Beard is how he focuses on defense. You know, a lot of people don't like that, but you know, that's the process and that's the thing that the kids buy into. And when they buy into it and they understand that when you focus on that process, results will come about. We see what happened. You know, we saw it in basketball this year. We've seen it with Scholastic Bowl. We've seen it with our entire athletic department. And it's just really refreshing to hear. And you can tell that, you know, when you listen to Mitch and you listen to Eli, you know, they really care about each other. They want to not only do well for their teammates, but represent the community and the school in a positive light, and that makes me proud as an athletic director. I know that makes the teachers and administrators within the school very proud as well. I know it makes the community proud, so we wish them the best of luck, and hopefully you guys can travel up to Peoria tomorrow, or as when this gets posted today, to watch them compete in the IHSA State Series. And as you can follow live updates on Twitter at WCSD15 Sports or on the Score Zone, IHSA.org. Just scroll down to where it says Scholastic Bowl Class 1A, and you'll be able to get live updates throughout the day if you cannot make it up to Peoria tomorrow, Friday the 17th of March, to watch them compete. The other thing that I want to touch on with the interview was how Mitch talked about Scholastic Bowl Camp or Quiz Bowl Camp. And the thing that I really thought was cool listening to hear him talk is, you know, he wanted to be the best he could possibly be at Scholastic Bowl. And so he took the steps to do that, and he really didn't, you could tell he didn't care what other people thought. And he knew going in he may not be the best person there, but he took full advantage of the opportunity, and obviously, you know, being rewarded with the great season they've had, but also with him being awarded all-state honors, which is huge with only 10 kids coming out of both classes, is absolutely amazing to see that. So I guess my challenge to you guys out there is, if you're passionate about something, put the most amount of effort into what you're doing, because if you don't, you can't be the best you can possibly be. And the thing that you have to not worry about is that fear of failure. You know, I'm sure Mitch was extremely nervous going in, competing against kids from all around the country. But if he had been afraid to fail, he wouldn't have taken that jump, and he wouldn't have be having the success that he is having this season with the Scholastic Bowl team. So sometime, you know, in the near future, take a chance, take a risk, because without doing that, you can't appreciate success, because, you know, with success comes failure. And don't let failure knock you down, but don't be afraid to fail either, because out of a lot of things, great things can come from failure. So I really appreciate that insight that Mitch gave as a junior in high school, and, you know, a lot of adults can learn from that. The other thing that I want to touch on that's coming up, obviously we'll talk about the upcoming events for this weekend and this week, but Friday the 31st of March, the Booster Club is putting on their spring event, doing a little bit different this year. But, you know, the Booster Club, they've been a huge component of our success here at Williamsville High School since I've been here, and before that as well. But since I've been here over the last 4 years, they've given back over $175,000 to the athletic program, which is absolutely amazing. You know, I tell them this all the time, but when I go to athletic director conferences or I talk to other ADs, not only in the area but across the state, they're absolutely amazed that a school our size can produce that amount of revenue in a sports booster program, and it all comes back to us, which is absolutely amazing. We really appreciate everyone that supports Bullet Nation out there. But you can support and continue to support this athletic department and the things the boosters do by coming to this event. It's going to be held at Boondocks on Friday, March 31st. Cool to Duel, which is a dueling pianos. If you haven't seen dueling pianos before, it's very neat. It's just like a concert. You can go up and request songs, and it's just it's a fun atmosphere. You may have been to Howl at the Moon before. I know they have some up in Chicago. They have one down at the place right across the street from Busch Stadium, Village Ballpark, as it had slipped my mind there. So it's going to be at Boondocks. Like I said, doors open at 6 p.m., shows at 7:30. You can purchase tickets. If you purchase tickets for $20, that gets you dinner, dueling pianos, and then DJ to follow. $10 just dueling pianos and a DJ. I think the dinner is going to be from Hickory River Smokehouse. And you can either purchase tickets online at boondockspub.com or by calling Booster Club President Michelle Busher, 217-494-5475. Or Vice President Debbie Price, 217-414-1330. If you do purchase them online, there is a convenience fee. But the nice thing with this is the Booster Club is getting all the money from the gate on this. So it's going to be a great event, and hopefully we see a lot of people out there. Tell your friends about it. And this is just another way that you can show the greater Springfield area and the entire state of Illinois why it's better to be a Bullet by coming out and supporting the Booster Club and their continued effort to help us carry on the tradition of excellence that's been established in WCSD15.org, not only the athletic department, but across the district for many years to come. Coming up, as we know, with the interviews that we had, Scholastic Bowl is heading up to Peoria for the IHSA State Series on Friday, the 17th of March. So hopefully you can head up there free of charge to watch that event. Also, the varsity baseball team will be in action on afternoon of Friday, March 17th in their 2017 season opener against Springfield Lutheran. First pitch will be at 4:30 p.m. at Williamsville High School. Then they'll turn right around again on Saturday, heading over to Pawnee, taking on the Indians in a game at 11 o'clock. As we talked about already with the rescheduled things from the weather this week, the fresh soft team and the JV team will be traveling over to Rochester for a doubleheader starting at 11 o'clock. And then varsity softball's in action as well, 11 o'clock over in Pawnee, JV to follow about 1 o'clock. And then boys track will be in action at the Charleston Invite at Eastern Illinois University starting about 8:15 on Saturday. Moving into next week, the girls track team will be going to Clinton at their last chance indoor meet to get see if a few more of our girls can qualify for indoor state. That's at 4 o'clock at Illinois Wesleyan University in Bloomington. Varsity baseball, we travel over Sacred Heart Griffin on Monday the 20th as well. 4:30 start. That game was moved from Wednesday the 15th of March. JV baseball will be in action up in Tremont, 4:30. And then you come out to Jane Grebner Field to see the Lady Bullets in action again as they take on Midwest Central. Varsity's at 4:30. JV to follow probably about 6 o'clock. And then moving right into Tuesday, girls soccer will be in action again. They suffered their first loss this season earlier today, 12-0 to Quincy Notre Dame. So if you can make it over to Mount Zion, it'd be interesting to see how the girls handle that adversity that they face. Haven't faced that in a while in terms of that big of a loss. And I know Coach Vandell and his staff will have them ready. 4:30 start over at Mount Zion. JV to follow at 6:30. Varsity baseball will be in action at home. 4:30 p.m. taking on the New Berlin Pretzels in the Sagamo Conference opener for the 2017 season. On Wednesday, then, varsity will be in action again. Travel over Argenta Oriana, who they've beat the last 2 years in the regional finals. So I'm sure the Bombers will be ready to see if they can exact some revenge on the Bullets. 4:30 start over in Argenta. And then on Thursday, JV baseball is in action home against Sacred Heart Griffin, 4:30 start. Varsity softball is heading up to Washington for 4:30 start. JV softball will be in action at home, Jane Grebner Field against Tremont, 4:30. And then both JV and varsity soccer will be in action over at Rochester. Varsity first at 4:30, followed by JV. And then next Friday, the indoor state meet at Illinois Wesleyan will have some athletes going over there for track. JV baseball will be in action at 4:30 at home against Lincoln. And then the varsity softball team will be heading up to Lincoln as well to take on the Lady Railers of Lincoln High School at 4:30. And then moving into next Saturday, quite a bit of action going on at home. Bloomington Central Catholic comes to town for a girls' soccer match starting at 10 o'clock. And then JV softball will be in action, doubleheader against Pekin at 11 a.m. at Jane Grebner Field. On the junior high side, that track team will get into action next Saturday, the 25th of March. 11 o'clock start over in Pawnee relay. So a lot of stuff going on to catch some action this upcoming week. So hopefully we see you guys out at one of the many events going on, not only here, but across the area in both the junior high and high school realms of spring sports. But until next week, remember, it's always better to be a Bullet.